The Rangers have played great hockey, getting scoring from all different avenues. I mean, Panarin's starting to play good hockey. Zibanejad has been unbelievable this year, playing two-way hockey. I think he's the best two-way hockey player. I mean, even their young players. Capo Caco had a 7-game scoring streak. Lafreniere's look good. Speedy, you're the Ranger fan. What has really turned your level as a Ranger fan into a playoff Ranger team?
A lot of different factors that Gerard Gallant has really brought to this team, that you're seeing both young and veteran players playing well. The depth for the Rangers that they were supposed to have last year is playing better. Lafreniere is on a very good pace to start his career now that he's had a great season this year to start. And the acquisitions, the new guys that they've brought in, Goodrow, Chris Drury, even somebody like Dryden Hunt, have been very good gems that they found. And again, I'm not expecting Gallant to take it to the Vegas level like he did, but there are similar things that they've done to make this team just a different identity as a whole. And they're winning games close now, which has always been a problem for them, and was a little bit of a problem at the beginning of the season too, but they're winning close games. And now they're still winning even with Shesterkin out too, which is proving a lot in terms of the adversity of this team, that a lot of these new guys are starting to come together and really make it work and believe in each other.
Absolutely. And we were talking about some of their players. Capo Caco, who a lot of people thought needed to have a good season to get that extension. Igor Shesterkin, who is unbelievable. Alexei Lafreniere has been unbelievable. Even Georgiev, he's played well. I know a lot of Ranger fans don't like him. And Adam Fox is having another season where he's going to be up for Defensive Player of the Year. Now, do I think he's going to win? He's not having the year he had last year. 5 goals and 24 assists, 29 points. 4th right now with defensemen in points.
He was never the big goal scorer. His assists is where he got most of his points last year, too.
And his plus minus is 9. I mean, he's on track. He's been unbelievable. He was the 3rd-round pick. The Rangers got him on a trade a couple of years ago. He's been unbelievable. And the Rangers, there's a lot to be excited if you're a Ranger fan. The team that you can't be excited for, as an Islander fan, you sit back and say, what is going on here? What is this team doing wrong with the talent? Now, I said it last week. I think the NHL did the Islanders a disservice. They should have canceled the games quicker with the whole COVID situation, how it was spread. But this team is far and away one of the worst teams in the NHL. You talk about Arizona, you talk about even the Krakens have better numbers than them. I mean, Montreal, Ottawa, even Buffalo has better points than they do. And a team like Boston, who hasn't played well this year, they have 28 points, and they're not even playing good hockey right now. Now, as an Islander fan, and I'm an Islander fan, I can't sit here and say that this team is a playoff-bound team anymore. A matter of fact, it would be a miracle for this team to catch up to the Columbus team and the Pittsburgh Penguins, who has 31 points now, who's 13-8. This Islander team is going to have to go on a 10-game winning streak to even catch up. Their schedule doesn't work in their favor. It really doesn't. Detroit on Tuesday, which is probably a loss. They play Boston on Thursday, which is probably a loss. Then they play the Vegas Knights, which is probably a loss. Their next game they probably win is Montreal, and that's not a guarantee, next Monday. Then the Capitals. I mean, their schedule, it's not easy. And they're going to have to start playing good hockey. And they're going to have to start figuring out how to put the puck in the net. Because when they do start putting the puck in the net, they're so far behind in goals, it don't matter if they score 3 goals in a game. Because they're down 4-3. They're going to have to figure out what their identity is, and it can't be just playing defense. Because let me tell you something. Islanders defensively this year have not been a top 10 defense. Barry Trotz's defense, since he's been there, has been a top 3, top 4 defense in the league. You know where they're ranked right now? They're probably ranked 14 or 15 in the league.
Which is hard to keep up if you can't possess the puck either. A lot of modern hockey being it's a speed and skill game now with the analytics, a lot of it is puck possession. The metrics of the Fenwick, the Corsi, all the other data that they look at. If the Islanders don't possess the puck, it's going to be harder for their defense to look like it did in years past, because at least the Islanders' offense, while it was never great, it was at least serviceable, and it was good late in the games. It was good obviously in the playoffs against good teams. So at least you had that, and they could score the tough goals. If you're not possessing the puck, it's just like in any other sport. If you're on the field in football, if your defense is on the field for 45 plus minutes in football, you're not going to go anywhere. And it seems like the Islanders' defense is on that kind of basis on a consistent basis. And with a team that's Good has some good young players, but it's still mostly on the older side. It's hard to win that way.
Well, I think they're a lot younger than you make them out to be. I mean, their best players are still in their mid-20s. I mean, you talk about Barzal, who hasn't had a good year, and that has a lot to do. They didn't bring an offensive player to play with him on that other side. Again, another season where you haven't gotten the best out of your best player, and that scares me as an Islander fan, especially when they were talking about bringing in Vladimir Tarasenko in the offseason. Then you added guys like Parisi, who a lot of people thought was leader, and Chara. These guys have been absolute failures on this team. They're not the players they thought they were. Maybe they're old. They've aged. And now, you have guys like Aho and Salo. Aho got hurt the other day, and Chara gets into a fight. Aho gets hurt. Salo, is not playing enough, the young player, because they're playing Green, another old player. Chara. You have to play your young players. You have to put more speed on the ice. The game is completely changed to speed. And the Islanders are not one of the faster teams in the NHL. So I don't know. Barry Trotz has spoken out about Bolivier. He actually sat him over the last 2 games, and has a lot to do with his game and his play. You bring Palmieri back. You give him a 4-year extension. He's got, 2 goals? I mean, Palmieri is a guy that should be averaging between 20 and 25 goals a season. He is a 30-goal scorer. He's not even going to get anywhere close to that this year unless he goes on a scoring streak.
It's weird. He's done well in the playoffs when he came to the Islanders, and he hasn't done well either one of the regular seasons so far.
So it's definitely something that the Islanders are stressing about. And they have $18 million after the Boychuk. Could they make a move at the trade deadline that could give them a good offensive play? Yeah, but it might be a little too late.
Right.
And I wouldn't do that. I would wait until next season and then decide what you're going to do with that $18 million. Maybe you drop a player that you re-sign. Palmieri, maybe you trade him. Maybe he's not a good fit for the Islanders. But you still haven't brought a player that can play with Barzal. Anders Lee has played a little bit better. You see him starting to get his stride back. But that's not saying much, and this team isn't scoring enough. You see these teams like the Rangers and the Devils and all these teams in the Eastern Conference, the Metropolitan Division, which is the hardest division to play. Right. They're all scoring goals, and the Islanders are the worst in the league.
The Islanders also might have to consider maybe just a veteran for veteran swap type thing too, because they still have a lot of good defensive raw talent, but maybe in order for Aho and Salo to play more, they trade maybe somebody like a Scott Mayfield or something like that and try to make that void. And maybe trade him for, I don't know if you're necessarily going to get a star winger with that, but at least somebody that's a good winger. Go ahead.
Right now, the Islanders have 1 more goal than the Arizona Coyotes. They have 1 more goal. They have 46 goals to the Arizona Coyotes, 45. The next closest team has 58 goals. Mm-hmm. That's the Chicago Blackhawks. That means they have 12 more goals than the Islanders do.
And I think they only caught up to that as of the last 2 weeks, too, because when we did the show after Thanksgiving, the Islanders were 10 goals behind the Coyotes. So
their goals against is not bad. I mean, right now the Rangers are in first place. Shout out to the Rangers. I mean, the Rangers have 1 less goal than the Islanders. It's unbelievable. And the Islanders that are built on defense, they're built and predicated on defense and goaltending, they're having a horrible season. And Carolina has 55. The Islanders still are amongst the league's best in goals against. But that's not saying much if they can't put the puck in the net. Mm-hmm. And they're leaving Sorokin out to stray. I feel bad for the kid because the kid's averaging, I think, 39 shots a game, 40 shots a game. Yeah. How do you expect this kid to win games if you're not putting the puck in the net? You expect him to have 40 saves a game to shut out a team because you're only getting an average of 1 goal. Right now, if you look at the stats, he's 6-6, okay? His goals against, he has 39 goals against. His goals against average is 2.53, which is one of the best in the league, okay? And his save percentage is .924. He has 3 shutouts. The only good, bright thing about the Islanders right now is their goaltending. Is not Semyon Varlamov, who's been horrible this year, by the way. He's 0-5. It's horrible. I don't understand why he's even playing. It doesn't make any sense. The fact that Ilya Sorokin is not playing every single game and they're not giving him points and not giving him goals is just a horrible situation for him. I hope as the season progresses that this kid is going to get more goals behind him where they could start winning. I want to see the Islanders go on a 5, 6, 7, 8 game winning streak and get back in this race because if the Islanders make the playoffs, they're built for the playoffs. The Rangers aren't built for the playoffs. The Carolina Hurricanes aren't built for the playoffs. These teams, they have good players. They've always made the playoffs. I mean, the Hurricanes have been deep in the playoffs every single year. they can't get over the hump.
Carolina's better as an underdog. I think once they got into more of the favorites, it's when they
But they're not really
struggle.
built. They're still
I think they are. It's just a matter of the pressure on them. I think, but we'll see now having a veteran goaltender too, because they've always had iffy goaltending in the past too. I think they did better as the underdog, kind of like a team like Nashville. Like Nashville, once they started to become more of the favorites for a while, they started having trouble. They were better, obviously, once the Cup is an 8 seed, but once they got into the division winners and I think 1 year the President's Trophy, that's when they started to struggle. I think Carolina's kind of in that same identity.
When you have a goaltender that has a 2.53 goals against average and a 924 save percentage, you should be winning games. Okay, you should be. And the fact that he has something in the twos, the way that teams are scoring on them, and their defense is completely failing on them.
Yeah. Among guys that have double-digit starts this year, Jacob Markstrom of the Flames leads in goals against average 1.84. Then it's Tristan Jarry, 1.92. Frederick Anderson, 1.97. And Jack Campbell, 1.99. Then it's Shesterkin, 2.05. Rounds out the top 5. Reimer, 2.05 as well, playing in 14 games. And then Sorokin is 2.53, which is still among qualified guys right outside the top 10 in goals against average.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's silly. And he averages more shots than any goalie in the NHL right now. This defensive team, this Barry Trotz defensive team, should be helping this kid. And this kid is still in the top 10 in goals against, still in the top 10 in save percentage. And nobody's going to recognize or even remember this season. They're only going to remember how bad the Islanders are.